Belgrade had already forgotten what winter looked like. Real winter, white winter. But 2 days in a row, the clouds had been shedding white snowflakes. So wrote Politica Daily on 4 December. Politica also reported that the government had resigned the day before, which made a significant impression on the political and parliamentary circles. King Alexander accepted the government resignations but entrusted the mandate for forming the new government again to Mr. Pasic. Politico had the ad page that attracted the reader's attention. That particular day saw the ad of Jugoslovenska Trgovačka banka, Yugoslav Merchant Bank. The bank affects the currency collections in Vienna and throughout all of Austria, buys and sells checks, executes stock exchange orders, collects invoices and issues letters of credit for goods, takes and ships goods on proprietary ships and barges. Jugoslovenska Trgovačka banka director Nikola Raspopovic that morning was in the Prometna Banka conference room full of bankers. Representatives of 29 financial institutions attended the founding session of the Bank Association Assembly. The Bank Association from 1921 to 1941. The Assembly adopted the rules of the Bank Association, appointed 18 managing board members, 5 supervisory board members, as well as 5 executive board members. Mr. Mihailo Dragicevic, director of Prometna Banka, was appointed chairman of the managing board, and Mr. Mihailo Bakonic, director of Srpska Zemljoradnička Banka, was appointed president of the supervisory board. The rules read, mission of the association is to file with the competent authorities issues of general importance and of common interest for the financial institutions, to represent both before the authorities and in various commissions and delegations the Bank Association as a whole, and to speak for the bank, to address in its bulletin all important issues in the economy and financial areas, and to establish, when appropriate, common institutions for better protecting of its interests. The idea of funding the association had been around earlier, as it became obvious that the Chamber of Commerce could not adequately represent the financial institutions. The representatives of 17 Belgrade banks in October 1921 defined the association rules to be signed by the founders-to-be numerous financial institutions. On 17 November 1921, the Minister for Trade and Industry ratified the rules. Toward the end of 1921, in Belgrade, there were 48 financial institutions with their head offices in Belgrade, foreign banks: the French Serbian Bank, the English Merchant Bank, the Wien Bankverein, the Prague Credit Bank, and the French Mortgage Bank, branches of banks from Zagreb, Osijek, Skopje, and from other cities, as well as several mortgage banks that were not shareholding institutions. In banks that year, there was a steep growth of both current account operations being opened mainly on the basis of bills of exchange and consortial commercial operations, rendering to the banks the most important portion of income. Banks not only financed enterprises but also paid in capital and took their stocks. Many banks issued new shares or raised their equity by raising the nominal value of the shares or by payments from their funds. In line with the equity, the reserves were raised as well. Household savings from 1920 to 1921 doubled. During the initial years, the Bank Association achieved marked results and commanded a great authority with the financial institutions. In 1922, there were already 131 members, which illustrates the reputation and status of the association. In that year, the association on few occasions defended its members and was in permanent communication and mail exchange with the National Bank. Ministry for Finance and the Chamber of Commerce often contacted the association seeking cooperation, opinion, or data on particular banks. The association changed the mail with peers, professional institutions like the Association of the Financial and Insurance Institutions in Zagreb and the bank community in Slovenia, but also with Czechoslovakian Banks Alliance in Prague. In October 1922, the conference of the representatives of the Bank Association and the Czechoslovakian Alliance was held in Belgrade. In 1923, the association was especially active in the law amending process. The National Bank was requested to amend its decision on revoking the credits to all financial institutions failing to meet the 3 million dinar paid-in capital requirement. That decision hit hard those pre-war financial institutions inside the boundaries of the former Kingdom of Serbia that used to have paid-in capital in gold and dinars, but during the war turmoil experienced heavy losses. Their rehabilitation took time as the liquidating bank was sluggish and made numerous obstacles regarding the realization of the pre-war claims. The managing board report for that year said that the financial institutions in 1925 were a system full of uncertainties. Although a dinar had a recent certain stability versus the foreign currencies, its purchase power in the country had not grown. The financial institutions that operated with the borrowed money had to show great prudence in extending the loans. Every placement entails the risk because it is not known what tomorrow may bring. National Bank, by way of raising the credit limits to the banks, could facilitate the whole economy rather than create the obstacles in using credits. On the basis of the association rules, the managing board appoints a Secretary General. Until 1924, the task of Secretary General was discharged by Nikola Stanarević, director of Mesarska Banka, being a board member, and afterwards Dr. Dušan Mišić. From 1926, the association had a new secretary, Luja Mor, who would remain in office until World War II. In 1928, financial institutions were concerned about how to acquire data on debtors or those who were seeking loans in order to avoid high-risk exposure. Therefore, the idea was conceived in the association as early as in 1924 to establish an institution that would collect such data and in turn make it available to financial institutions. The association in 1928 drafted the project on the decree on founding an information credit unit that encountered unanimous acclaim. This credit unit rolled out with the National Bank on 28 February 1929. On 30 November, the 10th association anniversary was celebrated in the Belgrade Stock Exchange Hall, where a jubilee session was attended by many members and guests. Trade Minister Demetrović, Finance Minister Šveljuga, government representatives, the National Bank, Chamber of Commerce, Belgrade Stock Exchange, Association of Exporters, Chamber of Industry, etc. Minister Demetrović pointed out that the Bank Association took the initiative on many issues of general corporate importance and that it will continue to do so. He read the decree by which His Royal Majesty decorated with White Eagle Order 3rd rank Dr. Vlada Marković, Chair of the Managing Board of the Association and Bank Director, the White Eagle Order 4th rank Mr. Milivoj Šićarević, Vice Chair of the Managing Board of the Association and Director of Jadranska Podunavska Banka, the St. Sava Order 3rd rank to Jezdimir Đokić, Vice President of the Association, Nikola Đorđević, Chair of the Supervisory Board and Bank Director. White Eagle Order 5th rank was awarded to a number of other bank representatives, members of the Managing and Supervisory Boards. The same day, a Jubilee banquet was held in the Srpski Kralj Hotel. At the banquet, several toasts were exchanged among the representatives of the Managing Board of the Association, the Governor of the National Bank, Mr. Bajloni, and the Foreign Office Minister, Dr. Vojislav Marinković, the Belgrade Stock Exchange President. A maximum number of 202 association members was recorded in 1932. 3 years later, at the 14th Assembly of the Association on 26 May 1935, in the Izvozna Banka Hall, Secretary Luja Mor submitted a report on operations for the previous year and measures aiming at the rehabilitation of the banking sector because he stated, "We are facing a desperate situation watching our banking fall down. At the end of 1934, 105 financial institutions filed for various forms of defense, 170 asked for extension of payments, and 10 filed for rehabilitation. That is a huge number compared to the overall number of 620 financial institutions in the country." In 1936, the association asked free interest rates forming in line with the demand and supply of money. Here, the interest rate has constantly been decreasing even before the ceiling was introduced. That measure fed the mistrust of investors, and some of the banks went into bankruptcy. Because of that, the money from the banks went to loan sharks. The 20th session of the Bank Association Assembly took place on 27 April 1941, 20 days after Belgrade was bombed. In the report on the previous year operations, it was emphasized that the previous year had been entirely a war year. The money market in 1940 was influenced by inflation. Heavy borrowing of the government at the National Bank instigated emergence of huge number of banknotes outstanding. At the end of that year, there were twice as many banknotes compared to the same period in 1938. Hoarding of money developed not as a confidence in the dinar, but rather as a means of payment hidden for any uncertainty and hard times. The white city of Belgrade, from that winter December week at the outset of our story and at the beginning of the operations of the association, gradually was becoming a city wounded and demolished. In the introductory address at the assembly, it was written, "We are living in times where nerves are being worn out, human bloodshed, rations constrained, prices soaring in production, consumption, trade, finance, and other activities distorted. We are facing total uncertainty. No one knows when and how the war will end and what it is going to be like after the war is over." This was a brief story about the Bank Association's history from 1921 to 1941. Many years later, after the war ended, the Bank Association would rise once again.